Next one, high value man. This idea of the high value man. This one is a bit of a mixed bag because there is truth in the idea of high value man in terms of net worth. Clearly, a person who has his own business, he has multiple houses, he has resources he can command. No doubt he's able to achieve different things, he's able to do certain things, he's able to, he's, in terms of stability in the home, financial stability, the more you have, the better off, no doubt. Even in terms of being able to, you could say, propagate Islam, you are more capable, by definition, to propagate Islam and do more for the ummah if you have money than those who don't. So I won't say Islam is against the idea of a high value man, or that there isn't such a thing as a man who's high net worth. So this is where the you can say the devil's deception can come in, because as Muslims we encourage people to be productive, to produce, to make something of themselves. That's what we encourage. There's a reason why the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Uthman, after he he filled his lap with gold to fund the Battle of Tabuk. He said, nothing will harm Uthman after today, nothing will harm Uthman after today, nothing will harm Uthman after today. There's a reason why he achieved that and others didn't. There's a reason why some of the Sahaba, the poor of the Sahaba said to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ذهب أهل الدثور بالأجور. The rich have run away with the reward. يصلون كما نصلي. They pray like we pray. ويصومون كما نصوم, and they fast like we fast. ويتصدقون بفضول أموالهم, and they give sadaqah of the excess of their wealth. Meaning they have so much money, they give sadaqah and they get the reward that we can't get. So there is something about the idea of a high value man, and in my head that made perfect sense. So there is something there of truth about the high value man. And if someone was to ask me, brother, I want to get married, brother, I want to get married a second time, second wife or a third wife, I will say to the brother, what's your bank balance saying? What's your income saying? Can you even support and look after a family? Because if you can't, you need to increase that and better yourself, become a high value man. So you can see here, there's nothing wrong inherently in this. However, the term high value man and the behavior can be distracting. I would say it can be a distraction and even a deception. Let me explain. Just because you have money doesn't mean you have any worth, or your value is high or low. In Islam, you are able to do things, yes, like someone who is stronger is able to do more than someone who is weaker. As the hadith said, al-mu'min al-qawi khayrun wa ahabbu ilallah min al-mu'min al-dha'if. So the strong Muslim believer is better and more beloved to Allah than a weak one. So we see there's obviously there's virtue in strength and ability, man'a and qudra. There's a virtue in that. But the ultimate virtue comes in a person's character and their deen. So like the Messenger of Allah said, that a woman is married for many things. For her looks, for her lineage, for her wealth, and for her deen. And then Messenger of Allah made dua against the one who chooses a woman for other than her deen. So these are things that one considers, but the deen of the person, their religion, their character is tantamount. It's the most important thing. That's what gives you the value. So that's why the Messenger of Allah is a high value man, and or should I say was, because obviously the Messenger of Allah is now dead, but but he was a high value man. And as the hadith in Bukhari said, when he passed away, he didn't leave behind any dinar or dirham or a slave that he owned, except a baghla, a riding animal, they used to ride, and weaponry, and some land that he gave as sadaqah for Ibn Sabil, for those travelers. So he had land, he had transportation, and he had a sword. Beyond that, all the money he had, he gave in sadaqah. And it's important to realize that the Messenger of Allah he never had no money because he was poor. He had no money because when he had money, he used it. Fi sabilillah. Sadaqah, da'wah, something. So this is the same thing. Same thing with Abu Bakr and Umar. Abu Bakr, Umar gave half of his wealth in sadaqah. And he thought he could beat Abu Bakr in righteousness until Abu Bakr came and gave it all away. Some may think from this that Abu Bakr was left with nothing, but he wasn't left with nothing. He had business. The money he had available right now, he gave in sadaqah, but it doesn't mean he never had income. So the point was, or the point is, yes, the Messenger of Allah wasn't necessarily a rich person like other rich individuals, but he did have income, he did have money come, and he did use that money fi sabilillah. So yes, the issue I have with this da'wah to be a high value man is that it is distracting to the ummah. If someone, especially to the people who are attracted to the red pill, because the idea is with red pill you can get the wife you want, you can get whatever. So therefore increase your net worth, become a high value man so you can attract the women you want. But then that's a problem, because that's not really the da'wah you should be given to the shabab. The da'wah you should be given to the shabab is primarily to fix your character, better your ways, increasing your deen and your iman, as well as your wealth. Yeah, having money will make you, or give you the ability to do better. Pay for your kids' education, pay for your take your family on Hajj, do all the things you need to do as a mu'min. But if you have money and no deen, which is unfortunately is a lot of people today, have money but no deen, the money means nothing, and you're not a high value man. A high value man is man who primarily has iman and taqwa. And the money he has and the money he may have allows that iman and taqwa to manifest itself in different ways. And I'll conclude this point here with the hadith in Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We mentioned that there'll be a man, or as a man, who Allah gave him money and gave him intellect, and he spent his money fi sabilillah. And there'll be a man who Allah gave him intellect but didn't give him money, and he would say, if only I had the money of so and so, I will do X, Y, Z of good deeds. These two are the same. And there'll be man whom Allah gave money but didn't give him intellect, and he spent his money in all sorts of sin. And there'll be man who Allah gave money but didn't give him intellect. Sorry, gave him money. Sorry, there'll be one who Allah did not give him money nor gave him intellect, and he would say, if only I had the money of so and so, I will do X, Y, Z of sin. And these two are the same. So we can see here from this hadith, from these four different men, that what actually made them from different camps was actually their deen, not the money they had. Those who were rich were put in one camp, and those who were poor were put in one camp. Rather, those who were rich and had iman, and those who were poor and had iman were the same. And those who were rich and had no iman, or no intellect, no aql, and those who had no aql or money were the same. So the dividing factor here was the iman, was the person's Islam. And that's what makes you a high value man. So yeah, that you could say the summary of this point here is that money does not maketh the man. You could say wealth does not maketh the man. Plenty of women would be happy with a man who is moderate, probably even poor, if he's a righteous man and a good man who makes and loves her and treats her well. She'll be happy with that. And most importantly, there are many factors that goes into marrying or choosing someone for marriage beyond his bank balance. And this is another message which we should be taught, mentioned to brothers. When you go meet a sister for marriage, once you got beyond the fact that you're not a doctor or a lawyer and she speaks to you, maybe she might like you still. Maybe being a doctor and lawyer would open the door. I'll give you that, maybe. But that doesn't mean you'll get the thing. Maybe you be a doctor and lawyer and you still be a punk. And she won't want you. It could happen. So money is important, but it isn't as important as I would suggest red pill teach it to be. And another way in looking at this is how this is Iblisi, or from Iblis, is how Iblis sees us as worthless. If you adopt this idea that a high value man is a man of high net worth, and that is your ideology now in your qalb, and because you're not poor, you don't actually believe you're high worth, high value man. which if to be honest, is actually quite an arrogant thing to say anyway. But that you are or not, but you think, oh, I'm not a high value man. If you look at how Iblis views mankind, he views us as worthless, and our only worth is in the material, or either achieved or either acquired. Makes you a very dunya. We call it a dunyified person. That's not really a word, but a very dunya-centric person. That's not really. That's generally speaking. That's not necessarily Islamically a good ideology to adopt. This dunya-centric ideology, basically, you could say. And you can see where it stems from. It stems from this materialism that is widespread in the West, and the materialism that is widespread amongst non-Muslims. And ironically, in some cultures, and I've heard this before, there are many women who will not marry a man who's rich. They would prefer to marry someone who is like them, because they feel if they marry someone who's rich, she may feel that she can't, what's the word? Fulfill the demands of such a person, and so on and so forth. So just because he's rich doesn't mean that a woman would actually want to marry. Maybe she might think you're a bit too rich. A good question. If a woman had the opportunity to marry Elon Musk. Now, I know he's not Muslim. Assuming he took Shahada. Yeah, just bear with me. He took Shahada right now. Now he's Muslim, Kufi and everything. Would you marry Elon Musk? A woman might say no, because he's so rich. He's always busy. He's got Tesla over here. He's got SpaceX over here. He's got Neuralink over here. He's got Boring Company over here. My man's now he's really launching a mobile phone. I mean, when will I ever see that guy? How would I ever see that guy? I would prefer just a normal guy who has a normal menial job. As long as he has the time his work finishes in his home and I can spend time with my husband. I don't want a guy who's always on a plane somewhere else and I see him once every month. So you can see here that it's not having money doesn't actually mean you would get the girl you would want. And I'll conclude this one on these two scenarios here. And this is kind of the other side of this idea of a high value man. A man's value is in what he has. Someone made a comment. I think they took the comment back, but it's still worthy of comment. He mentioned that a woman's value is in her husband. If he's a high value man, that she captures his value. Because if she's really rich and whatnot, no one cares. But if her husband's rich, then people care. I think that was kind of the idea. That basically a woman piggybanks on the successes of her husband. And essentially her worth and status and whatnot is from that. But I'll give two examples of why that's false, and we'll leave it at that. Asiya, the wife of Fir'aun, didn't get the value of Fir'aun, meaning one of the worst of created beings. She didn't achieve what he achieved, rather she was far superior to him, even though she was just his wife. And we have the opposite. We have the wife of Nuh alayhi salam, the wife of a Nabi. She didn't achieve the virtue of her husband, nor was she elevated to that level, because she had not adopted and embraced Islam as she should have done. So she got the level that she got. So we see here, Asiya wasn't lowered down to the level of Fir'aun, nor was the wife of Nuh raised up to the level of her husband. We find individuals are independent, and this idea of high value man can infect your ideas and perception of men, and also your perception of women.